Well, there's been no top flight football in England for the best part of a fortnight, but that doesn't mean that the Premier League hasn't thrown out some storylines that bettors should take note of. Here to make sense of a significant points deduction for Everton, plus all the best bets across week 13 of the EPL are myself, Dan Roebuck, plus Nigel Seeley and Jack Wright. This is Betting Weekly Premier League show. Nigel, Everton start the weekend in 19th position with just Burnley below them in the table on goal difference after a 10-point deduction due to financial irregularities, or at least the Premier League version of FFP. You mentioned that this was the elephant room when we looked at the futures market for relegation a month or so back, and so it proved here. Everton plus 225 to go down. Should we back them? Should we leave them? What are your thoughts?
Good to be back, guys. First of all, yes, not a great international break if you are a Everton fan. A good international break if you've been following the show here, with lots of winners from everyone on the international show. Everton Football Club, I mean, I think it's the perils nowadays of betting future markets, not only relegation markets. I think there could be ramifications potentially now at the top end with Manchester City. We don't know what's going to happen there. That could be a worry for anyone who's holding a very heavy minus Man City price. We've seen it happen in the English lower leagues where teams have been deducted points. If this had happened to Everton in the last 4 or 5 seasons, that would be them doomed. But this Premier League, as I've said, as we've highlighted on this show, throughout the season so far is probably one of the weakest Premier Leagues, or not probably the weakest. The gap between it's the widest gap between the bottom and the top. So despite that 10-point deduction, which is a huge deduction, Everton are still plus money to get relegated. There's 3 teams below them. So if you ask Everton fans, would they be in this position? Not with the 10 points, but 4th favourites of relegation. This is probably where they would expect it to have been this time of the year. It was only because they had a brilliant run just before the international break that they sort of escaped that market. But would I bet them to get relegated? No, I wouldn't. I think this could galvanise them. I think you might see Everton even harder to beat. I think they've suddenly started looking good defensively. They've suddenly got their main man back in attack. They haven't really been affected by internationals like any other sides. So I think this, I know it sounds really strange and a stupid thing to say, and it's not, I don't mean it this way, but actually it could be a good thing for Everton in terms of their performances and the way they play. I think they pick up more points now knowing that their back's against the wall. We've seen when Everton have been at the bottom of the Premier League over seasons before, what that home support does to them in the final games of the season. I expect every match now to be like that. And I don't think they'll go down, even at 10. But I think those 3 teams, Sheffield United, Luton, and Burnley, are the worst 3 we've ever seen. I think Bournemouth, I know they did win their last match against Newcastle, but you mentioned it, Dan, on the last show we did, which seemed like ages ago now, that Newcastle were depleted by injuries. It wasn't to be for them, but I think it's a bad week for Everton, but I think they'll be fine.
Jack, what's your take on this? I mean, if you're Burnley, Sheffield United, Luton, even Bournemouth, you're thinking, well, this is a bit of an opportunity because there's a team that's been drawn towards my team. I mean, Burnley minus 167 to go down. Does it make them more backable maybe at that price? Because obviously they were shorter prior to Everton getting this deduction. How do you see it?
Well, it's a bonus for them because it's helped. I don't think it'll be enough. Like same as Nigel, I've actually laid once there was the initial announcement was made. There seemed to be a big overreaction and on the price for Everton, and I laid them to go down. So I'm effectively backing them to stay up. I can't see them getting any kind of trouble. One win and they're out of the relegation zone again, really, aren't they? And the other sides, as we've already said, are so bad this season. Can't get points. That it's going to be an all-time record low as far as surviving relegation is concerned. So they've obviously appealed it as well. So we've got that to take into account, that anyone that does fancy getting on board, there is a chance that 10-point penalty is going to be reduced. So that will possibly have an impact as well. But no, for me, it's the same sides that we've talked about all along. Those 3 favourites are the ones. If you were giving me one of your infamous free Roebuck bucks to have a bet, then I'd probably look past Bournemouth, and the one that catches my eye is the side that we've talked about a lot this season as having no firepower or creativity. Fulham at plus 700 would probably be the one that, if I had a better price, I wouldn't be backing the others at the prices they are for me.
Be interesting to see what happens, certainly when it comes to the futures market. And as you're right, it could easily be a 6-point deduction rather than a 10-point deduction. And bettors have got to factor all that in. We usually go chronological over the course of the weekend, but because we're talking about Everton and we've got to play in the match at Goodison Park against Manchester United. We're going to start on Merseyside. This is Sunday, 11:30 Eastern. Everton plus 180 have been backed just a little bit. Manchester United plus 155 are the favourites. Draw plus 250. Look, the atmosphere is going to be something. Nigel, you mentioned it briefly before. Should bettors factor that in? Is it already factored in to the price? How do you see that, first of all, before you give us your play?
Well, I think it's already been factored into the price. As you see, the line movement has sort of moved into Everton's favour, which you would expect. Manchester United did win their last match before the international break, but it still papers up the cracks. A 1-0 win against Luton is not really what the Manchester United faithful are hoping for. So Manchester United still are a team in big problems. I mean, Ten Hag is the second favourite to lose his job, so it tells you that win against Luton is irrelevant, really. They have a huge Champions League match as well in midweek, so that's another big factor. That's a massive match for Manchester United and their season. So that is their I think that's probably their priority rather than this match against Everton. As I said there, I think Everton are going to be very hard to beat at home. I think they're going to make it really intimidating for them, and they were playing really well. And I think the 10-point deduction will actually galvanise them and make them even stronger. So I agree with the move. I couldn't probably bet them though at the price, but I do have an angle. Do you want me to come to the angle?
Yeah, go on. What's the play?
Well, it's not a surprise. We're back. I think this week's the week we're going to go. This is the week we're going to go big on the under 2.5 goals. I haven't eaten since August, as you can say. I'm losing weight. Everything's going wrong. But it's been a terrible season for unders bettors. I said the goals go under in November. I wait for you to give me your clever stats and your clever computer at the end of the year, but I don't think it's going to be that good for me. I don't think I would have made much money. But the games I've picked certainly didn't make any money. But I think Everton Man United does have that look about an under 2.5 goal match. The reason why I think Everton, obviously that 10-point, the galvanisation, that's fans behind them. I think that Sean Dyche is a defensive coach. The way he sets his sides out and not to get beat. I think even more so now with the 10-point deduction, that makes every match we can't afford to lose this game. So that plays into his strategy. Manchester United with that Champions League game is massive. The week before the Champions League, I think that's going to be a huge question in the way they approach this match. And if you look at Everton this season, I know they played well, but at home, their first 3 matches were 1-0 defeats. 4 of their 6 matches at home have been under 2.5 goals in cash. Goodison Park is notoriously a very difficult place to go. And Manchester United, last match out, a 1-0 win against Luton, very poor. A 1-0 match at Fulham. Man United are just winning ugly. And that's what Ten Hag has started to do now. He thinks to himself, when they've got no goals, they've got no goal scoring threat unless it's McTominay. The striker looks questionable in the Premier League at the very best. 9 starts, 9 guys, Hoyland. So I think this here could be. I'm looking at this as a point each. I think Manchester United take a point, head off to the next match of the Champions League, try to get a win there, try to get their season on track there. Everton build into that 10-point deficit. And I think it'll probably be a draw. I wouldn't bet the draw, but I do think under 2.5 goals here at -103. I think this is going to be nervy. I think 2 sides desperate for a point at least. 2 sides struggling in goal-scoring opportunities, and 2 sides that recent weeks have looked better defensively. I think Everton in the last match obviously were involved in a high-scoring game, but I think prior to that and now that deduction, I think they go back to what Dyche is tried and tested formula. Keep it tight. So a very nervy match, under 2.5 goals, -103. Big weekend for the unders bettors. We're back.
Well, look, speaking about my supercomputer, if you level staked Everton unders this season, you are in profit. Second best record in the league. So the stats stack up as well. Just briefly, Jack, on you with this atmosphere thing. I just think Everton are going to be unplayable for the first 10 minutes. Whether it'll last a lot, I don't know. And United are fragile. Is it something for you, or are you just a cold, hard facts numbers man? And is everything factored into the price anyway? We shouldn't read any more into what's going to be a very hot Goodison Park on Sunday.
Yeah, we mentioned it a week or so ago on Twitter, didn't we? We were having a little chat about it, and I think that it was factored into the price, was one to keep an eye on. Absolutely, the atmosphere will be white hot. Siege mentality, Sean Dyche's fingerprints all over this Everton setup right now. It screams gritty, tough crowd going for it. We saw it a couple of seasons ago. One thing that did catch my attention, the line's a little bit high for me to play from the get-go, but bookings is one to look out for here. The line's set at 6.5. John Brooks is the referee. He's given 7 cards in his last 2 outings in the Premier League. Quite notorious for getting a few cards out of his pocket, and so this one could get a bit feisty.
That's a lot, though, isn't it? 6.5.
It is a lot. It's a high line.
I mean, that's the kind of match you would see for like a Manchester derby. It would be. But the Glasgow derby the other week was 6.5. Rangers v Celtic 6.5. That does seem very, very high. Yeah,
it's too high. I said to get involved. It was one I looked at, but was too high. So hence why I kind of bypassed it. But it's one, if you can get on in play, worth a little look. If he lets a few go early doors, it could kick off, and that line will come down quite quickly. But yeah, one to keep an eye on.
We'll look at the cards when the game goes on. We're looking for unders in that game, as we are in Luton against Crystal Palace. This is 10 p.m., 10 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. Luton plus 275, Palace plus 108. The draw plus 240, and unders here, Nigel, plus 137. You like unders again here. Palace disappointed us last time. I said it was a good bet. I'm not going to say this is, Nigel.
Well, I think everything you said is a good bet hasn't happened. So he was really very tempted to say it was a good bet in the Everton match, and then you sort of stopped yourself because you knew you were going to get slated. So I'm glad you did, actually, but I was a little bit concerned about that. But yeah, Crystal Palace cost us the money in their last match, and that was an uncharacteristic performance in that one there. But that was a 3-2 defeat against Everton, at home against Everton. Who would have seen that one coming? But I certainly didn't. It was all over after I think I was under 2 goals. It was all done after 8 minutes. I think it's a world record.
Yeah, we were hoping for a push for 80 minutes.
82 minutes holding out for a push. You can't get that's not how you want to be betting. But I think here, I mean, Crystal Palace have kept more clean sheets than any other team in the Premier League season. I think they're joint with Newcastle. The goalkeeper's in fine form. Sam Johnson, him and Nick Pope, the Newcastle keeper, have kept more clean sheets in the Premier League than any other goalkeeper. If you look at Palace's matches so far this season against teams in or around them at the bottom of the table, Sheffield United 1-0, Fulham 0-0, Forest 0-0, Burnley 2-0. The only one that didn't end under 2.5 goals was that match against Everton, the match that we got stuck into. So you could look at it a bit hard luck. That was an uncharacteristic performance by Everton, and obviously the early goal changed the whole complexion of that match. But I think here with Luton, if you look at their recent results, Luton have started to perform a little bit better. I know their metrics have been pretty good as well from where they are, but a 1-0 defeat against Manchester United, 1-1 against Liverpool. How that game cashed unders, I don't know. And the Tottenham 1-0 win as well, another one which is very fortunate to be cashing unders. And they're against 2 of the best 3 teams in the Premier League currently on form as well. So now they're up against Palace. I just feel like this is a match where both managers would look at this and think, you know what, if we can pick up points or we can take a point here. Palace have got a lot of players returning back from the international duty. They're going to be quite tired. I know Eze's going to be another week where he's going to get better. That's a bad thing for the unders bettors. He started to look good before the international break. Luton have had most of their players around, not often international duty. I think out of all the Premier League teams, they're the side that them and Sheffield United, I think Sheffield United have the least players on international duty, Luton are second. So they've got the most players back. They're going to work on things in the training ground, but I think this could be a pretty boring match. I think Palace under Roy Hodgson are negative. I think Palace this season, I know we got our fingers burnt on the last match, but you know, if you want to bet Palace matches in teams in the bottom half, you usually do cash under 2.5 goals. That's not just the case this season, it's been the case last season as well. 5 of Luton's home matches Luton have had 5 home matches in the Premier League this season, and 3 of them have under 2.5 goals. And now the team with the worst metrics on the road this season, one of the lowest scorers and one of the meanest defence come to town. I can see this being another low-scoring match as well. I was hoping that the weather might be horrid and terrible across the country this weekend, and you know it's been quite a lot of rain and it's quite cold, but it's going to be quite nice, which doesn't help that bet as well. But I just think looking at the fixtures this weekend, there's a lot of matchups where I just look at them and you go under. The only thing that's in your mind every time as an under better now for me is this extra added minutes. You know what I mean? And I think if people are a little bit nervy and a little bit careful, cautious, or a little bit concerned about 10 minutes, the amount of late goals that have cost us in recent weeks, which has been an awful lot, we've been on the right side. I wouldn't change any of the bets that we've done, even though we've lost on these under matches. But they've been great bets going into like the 82nd minute, 83rd minute, then disaster struck. I think if you do get an opportunity, I think with these extra minutes on the clock until that sort of finds itself out, if we were in a position here, I would suggest maybe a cash out or close your position and just take the money, because these last 10 minutes are proving really, really costly. But for 80 minutes, I think we're on winners on both of these two. The last 10, 20 minutes, or 10 minutes of extra time, that's where it all goes wrong.
Jack, you have got a play in this game. It is different. It's an interesting one because potentially you're going against, to a certain extent, Nigel's thinking, although both bets could cash. Jack?
Yeah, absolutely not. I'm going complete with Nigel's selection. It's going to be under 2.5 goals, but both teams are going to score. It's going to be a 1-1 draw. Simple as that. I did dig into a few of the stats, actually, on regarding like Nigel, what he then said this week, as far as those injury time goals are concerned. There's been 38 goals in second half injury time so far this season, 50 in total.
I was on 37 of them.
And you were, I was going to say, we had 19 of those as
I was on 37 of them.
21 goals from 90 plus 5 onwards so far this season. And I think there was 9 clean sheets busted in injury time at the back end of the game. So from 51 in total. So it's about 15% of clean sheets are gone in added on time. So absolutely backs up what you say. Keep an eye on that one and look at your position as we go into that. So, yeah, for me, my bet, both teams to score. It's on a similar basis. This is a tight one. This is a game that Luton are going to be marking down as that they'll be wanting to take something from. So, of course, an early goal would open it up either way around here, because Palace can't afford to lose to a Luton side that are been written off effectively for the minute they got promoted. So I feel that Luton have been competitive over the course of the season and getting more competitive. A couple of heavier defeats at the start of the season, come seconds away from getting a massive win against Liverpool in their last home game, which obviously ended 1-1, as we then talked about. But they are yet to keep a clean sheet so far this season. So that's 12 games into the season. Only Leicester have started a Premier League life with fewer or more games to get a clean sheet. That was 18 before they then got one on the 19th. And they concede a lot of shots. They concede a lot of opportunities. And the main reasons that we were fading Palace over the course of the season so far, as Nigel's already said, is that, yeah, Zaha went in the summer to Turkey. That's not going to change. But Eze and Elise, both back to varying degrees at this moment in time. Elise with an assist from the bench and then a goal in his first start. And Elise now had about 20-odd minutes in that game against Everton. And it's also interesting that Luton concede the second highest amount of shots from their left-back position, which will be where Elise is. So one to keep an eye on as far as getting involved in this game, be it off the bench or from the get-go. We'll see how it goes. But Luton only failed to score in one of their 5 home games this season. That's my angle on it. And that was against Spurs, who were down to 10 men for that second half. So possibly more of a hindrance in the fact that Spurs would look to maintain to what they had. But they've scored in all those other 4 games, obviously have conceded in all 5 of their home games, and they've conceded in every single game so far this season. And as far as Palace are concerned, they've only failed to score in one of their 5 away games, and that coming in that terrible performance against Newcastle. Luton aren't a Newcastle, so I'd expect Palace to get on the score sheet again against Luton. And as I say, Luton have shown that they can score, certainly at home, where they'll be expecting to pick up most of their points. And in fact, 4 of their 5 home games this season have seen both teams to score cash, and I'll take that again this time round.
Well, we'll take 1-1, won't we, here? Plus 525. That would see both selections pay. Forest Brighton next up. Forest plus 215, Brighton plus 120, draw plus 265, again 10 a.m. Eastern. What's happened to Brighton, Jack, with goals? Last 5 games all unders, a lot of 1-1s flying around. Have they changed anything, or is it just a bit of regression after an awful lot of overs for the most part from the get-go of this campaign?
That's the question, isn't it? What's caused it? Is it a case that they've reverted back to that XG phenomenon that they had previously over the last couple of seasons before De Zerbi, creating lots of chances, not scoring them? Is it simply that they've been found out a little bit? Is it sides are now going, we need to give Brighton a bit more respect. We need to play to nullify them rather than just go and say we're going to beat them and play better? Is it a fact that, of course, being in European competition this year, as we've said before, is just stretching that squad a little bit too much? I think it's a combination of the latter 2 of those things. I think when you look into the data, you saw their last away game, they only created 0.5 XG. So you would say that they're not quite getting on it at this moment in time, and say probably down to a fact, a little bit of fatigue, but also that sides like Everton in that particular case are going to go, right, we aren't going to fall into your trap. They want to try and drag people out of position. They want to try and engage them into more of an open game and then punish them by playing through them and around the back and side. So I think we're going to get a similar setup here with this Forest side. They'll play that much the same kind of template on that. So under 3 is the bet for me here. Under 3 goals does mean that we have got the safety net of a push if there are 3 goals exactly in the game. But in the same way, of course, as an under 2.5 goals bet, 0, 1 or 2 goals in the game is a full cash of the ticket for us. So Forest are certainly that side that we look at and go, are they playing at home? Are they playing it away? And then we have to kind of align our sights according to that. We thought at the start of the season when they got that win at Stamford Bridge that possibly they'd turned the corner and they were going to start replicating their home form away. But if we remember last season, 10th best home record, worst away record. This season, they've not only picked up 1 point since that win against Chelsea, and only Bournemouth and Sheffield United have got fewer away points. But lo and behold, where are they in the league table for as far as home performance is concerned? They're 10th again. So it's virtually an identical to last season. And what's that been built around? Well, it's been built around a very, very strong defence, which is, of course, what is all that matters for me in this particular bet on the under 3 goal line. Only Newcastle, Manchester City and Liverpool have conceded fewer goals at home than Nottingham Forest have, although I think they've been a bit underwhelming this season, and they've certainly been very tight defensively. They've only conceded 5 goals across those home games. And I say, I just think that they've got that tight ability to keep things, say, compact. You look across the board, they tend to concede goals, but at the City ground, it's very, very tight. They don't tend to create too much. They do rely a little bit on 1 or 2 individuals getting them out of jail. But say for me that they are going to be a tough nut to crack. And I think they are very much going to be sitting deep. They've actually got the deepest, lowest block of anyone in the entire Premier League as far as their defensive structure and setup is concerned. So that's not going to be helpful for Brighton playing their normal style, which leads to them scoring their goals. So, for me, Brighton's attacking process taking a bit of a dive. We know that City, Nottingham Forest is good at the City ground and keep it tight. So therefore, the under goal line is the play for me at minus 132. Bit of juice in that price from what I made it.
Yeah, minus 132 under 3. The push, if there is 3 goals in the game, potentially we are still ahead of the curve. Nigel, you have got a lean in this one. Just thoughts on the home win potentially?
Yeah, I quite like Forest here. I probably want to get with them with a draw, no bet, or because Brighton have been drawing a lot of games in the Premier League in the last few weeks. I want to get them a draw, no bet. I mean, Jack's point about Brighton this season is definitely to do with the Europa League, but their form's dropped. I mean, prior to the Europa League started, they played 5 matches and won 4 of them in the Premier League. They were riding high at the top of the table. After the Europa League, they've played 10 and won 2 in all competitions. They haven't got a big enough squad. We've seen big teams over the years on a Thursday struggle, Thursday, Saturday, Thursday, Sunday, Premier League football. Brighton just haven't got a big enough squad. I know they've got players. I know they have got a big, they have got a big squad compared to other teams in the Premier League, especially Championship. But their top players playing week in and week out, it's finding them out. And if it's a big match for them as well in the Europa League, they've got to go to Athens to play AEK Athens, and everyone knows a tough trip to Greece is a tough place to go. It's the old cliche, tough place to go, but Greek sides notoriously at home are fantastic. Away from home, they're useless. So, and if AEK Athens win, then they've got a chance of qualifying. And Brighton play Marseille on the final day of the qualifying, and Athens will play Ajax, who will be out. So it's a massive match for them in midweek in that game. And if you look at their record in the 3 matches prior to trips to Europe, they've been beaten 6-1 by Aston Villa, 2-1 by Man City, and a drew 1-1 with Everton. So they haven't really put in any performance prior to a Europa League game. So I think that really does help Forest. And with Forest being they're unbeaten this season. I know they're 10th in the Premier League. I know they've drawn a lot of games, but they're unbeaten at home. And that crowd, I mean, I know a guy who's a broadcaster like yourself, Dan. He travels around and he says that Forest is the best atmosphere of any club in the Premier League last season and this season. He's absolutely rocking there at home. So I don't fancy Brighton for this trip at all. I think Forest in the draw, no bet, or Forest if you can get a push on the quarter goal handicap, Norton half. I'd take that. I don't trust them to win it, but I don't think they get beat.
Plus 130. Tino bet.
Yeah, I like that.
Forest. Yeah. Might be the play. Brighton, they're a strange one, aren't they, all of a sudden, having been fairly predictable, as Nigel suggested at the start of the season. Sheffield United, Bournemouth next for us. It's another 10 a.m. Eastern Saturday kickoff here. Sheffield United plus 225, Bournemouth plus 123, which seems too short for me. We are on the unders train again here, Nigel. None of Bournemouth's away games have gone under this season, but you believe they're going to buck that trend. Is this about Bournemouth or is it about Sheffield United? Combination of the two. Talk us through your play.
Well, none of the games have gone under, but they've played Liverpool, Man City, Brighton, Brentford and Everton. Everton one, maybe you could say, yeah, but this is very different. Sheffield United at home. We know Sheffield United have problems scoring goals. I'm going back to the scene of the crime. And this is the scene of the crime where Sheffield United played Wolves 3 weeks ago, where I was sitting at the Bellagio window and I almost threw myself into them famous fountains.
Come on, Sherlock.
Yes, there was a murder committed. There was a murder committed 2 or 3 weeks ago in that Sheffield United v Wolves game, and I'm going back. There's a lot of common denominators here, Bournemouth going back there, and I just feel that again it goes back to this kind of argument that I feel that both of these managers are severely under pressure. I mean, Higginbottom's the favourite to be the next Premier League manager to go. Ariola's third or fourth favourite. They are under. We haven't even lost the manager yet in the Premier League coming up to Christmas. It's staggering. I always bet no manager to lose their job. It's one of these random bets I always do with about 2 months ago or 3 months ago, and you get 33 to 1. No manager to lose his job in the Premier League is currently 250 to 1. And I was really tempted to bet it the other day because I just think to myself, the 3 teams at the bottom who are under huge pressure, what is it any good to sell them? And they're expected to be in this position. Who are they going to get? The cost of getting anyone in. So they've probably got a little bit of a say. Company probably is the one that may be under pressure. Bournemouth, if he hasn't gone now, then you see signs of improvement. He beat Newcastle last time out. So really, is it a crazy bet? Is it a trading bet? 200 to 1 now, get into the new year. Where they might sack someone is that break. We've got a 2-week break, haven't we, over Christmas? We know football. But anyway, go back to this game.
Just on that, I think you're right, because if you're Burnley and you've got company, you'd probably want him to have another go in the Championship next season.
Well, that's my point. Those 3 teams,
all 3 of those coaches, Heckingbottom, slight question mark, but the other 2, you think that they would probably want them to try and have another go to get them back up and have another crack. It's not the worst, as you say, to have a bit of fun with that and see where you are in the spring.
I mean, I don't think it's been a season we've got this far in the Premier League without anybody going already. And, I can't see Man United getting rid of Ten Hag. I really can't. I mean, the club are in transition. See what happens. The owners get this season over and done with in the summer, maybe. Bournemouth, they haven't got rid of Irola after some of those performances he's had already this season. Well, they're staying with him because he's must have a massive contract. And I just think that you might get lucky and have a freak season. At 200 to 1, you're going to have some fun, interest, and no manager to go. Saying that, as soon as I say this will be clipped and someone will be sacked on Sunday. But anyway, we'll go back to this match. I just think it's got to look about that both sides again will be quite content with the point. I think Sheffield United at home this season, if you look at their records against teams very similar, a 2-1 win against Wolves, which was, for all intents and purposes, that was a 0-0. That was a 1-0, never a 2-1 match. A 1-1 draw with Brighton as well in their recent matches. And Bournemouth coming here, I know all their matches that have gone over, but they have played a very, very different caliber of opposition to what they face here. And I just feel that Sheffield United, Bournemouth, I just think it's got that look about it again. It's that sort of mid-season kind of game where both teams are struggling and both managers need something. And I think now Everton have been thrown into the mix. I think that sort of changes the psyche of these two sides now. Instead of a battle between 4 clubs, now there's a battle between 5 clubs, and they might just nick points off each other and try to pick up ones as they go along. So I think it should be a very, very cagey first half. It might open up in the second half. And again, my advice to be that if we are looking quite good at around about 70th, 80th minute, if it's 0-0 again and no shots on target at 50 minutes this season, just don't think we're going to cash. Just get out and take your money, because you're going to get ludicrous price, probably minus $8 or something like that, like this game was 2 weeks ago. Not that it's bothering me or nothing like that. But it's not that it's bothering me or nothing like that. But anyway, I can't get out of my head. But I think this is under 2.5 goals. Under 2.5 goals is even money. I don't think I gave you the price on the under 2.5 goals in Luton Palace. Under 2.5 goals there was minus 137, and under 2.5 goals in Everton Man United was minus 103. So a 3 matches for me, all back to norm. The Premier League starts this weekend, all unders. I'm going to be happy. Christmas round the corner. And remember, the goals go down in December.
Newcastle, Chelsea, the last major preview we've got for you. Jack's tackling this for us. Again, it's 10 a.m. Saturday Eastern. Newcastle the favourites plus 155, Chelsea plus 180. Huge game, and Nigel has talked about Champions League fixtures upcoming, or European fixtures upcoming on the horizon for teams this week. Same for Newcastle, of course, with the game against Paris Saint-Germain, I think it is. Jack, what's the play here? Talk us through. This is an interesting one because, you know, Chelsea every now and then they'll put in a performance and they're the media darling and everyone loves them, and they put 4 past Man City and you think they've turned a corner. Next week, it's not the case. What do you like here? What are your thoughts on these two?
Yeah, it is an interesting one, isn't it? And yeah, PSG on the horizon for Newcastle, but this one first, which they need to take care of because obviously they had a poor performance last time out. The injuries have bitten a little bit. I have gone for the famous phrase, remember, goals go down in November, apart from Newcastle versus Chelsea. Over 2.5 goals have gone through in this one. Bucking the trend.
Up to the 90-minute mark.
Just play over 2.5 in added on time. See what price you get. But yeah, minus 127 is the price pre-kickoff here for this. Do you know what? I was tempted to pull the trigger on Chelsea here, given the Newcastle issues, but you know, we're recording this a day earlier than normal, so we don't get the team news that we normally get, and I think that's quite crucial as far as the match result is concerned here, because talk is that Kieran Trippier is going to be absolutely fine and playing. Fabian Schär is a possibility. Almiron is supposed to have recovered and should be able to play. Guimaraes back from suspension as long as he arrives back from that interesting game in Brazil last night. Okay, and the key one, I guess, is going to be Isak. There's talk that he should be able to participate, possibly start, and that will be a massive boost for Newcastle, who just lacked that cutting edge. You know, with Isak and Wilson, they've obviously got 2 strikers that actually outperform Haaland as far as goals per minute are concerned so far this season. So to have one of them available, Wilson's definitely out, of course, but to have one of them available will be a massive boost for them. Chelsea are that side that I have kind of realigned or changed my sights a little bit as far as my ratings are concerned over the course of the season. A side that I've kind of been against for much of it so far, but we knew they were going to come good under Pochettino. I think some of the injuries have actually helped him a little bit as far as that he's had a trimmed squad to choose from rather than having the hundreds that were available to him. So yeah, a couple of key people out were a blow, but he's now been able to field a bit more of a settled side, and that has helped. And we've seen some good performances from him as well over the last few weeks, and plenty of goals. And so at the start of the season, you know, we've talked about this offline as far as the XG for these two clubs are concerned, and they're very, very high. Chelsea ranks second as far as the expected goal scored is concerned. Newcastle are 5th. The same applies as far as their respective home and away form as well is concerned. So we should see a fairly steady pattern for this one. The problem Chelsea had at the start of the season is they were creating all those chances and not scoring the goals. And that's been the one thing that's certainly turned around over the last few weeks. We saw that game against Spurs, of course, where they scored 4 eventually, but still conceded 1. We're nearly 2-0 down inside the opening 15 minutes and still conceded chances even against 9 men towards the end. So although the processes are working well and they're scoring goals, they seem to have been a little bit more open now at the back, obviously highlighted by the fact the last game before the international break was that 4-4 draw with Manchester City. And going back to their last 2 away games, they also scored 4 against Burnley. So they went to Burnley and won that one 4-1 as well. So, okay, Newcastle are better set up, better side than Burnley. But when we're talking about the last 5 games, where I kind of zone in just to see what the current form is like, you look at Chelsea have played the likes of Man City, they played Arsenal, they played Tottenham in those games as well. And there's been goals galore in them, really. The last 5 Premier League games, they've scored 14 goals, but they have conceded 10. So that's averaging 4.8 goals per game. Newcastle's not quite so prolific, but 9 and 6, which gives a flat average of exactly 3, which obviously is what we're looking for here, over 2.5 goals. And I just feel that there are chances going to be at both ends of this one. This is a game that Chelsea can really set their sights on, knowing that Newcastle are potentially a little bit vulnerable here, and Chelsea have been better on the road. We'll go and look to attack it and close the gap on Newcastle and start to get their sights set on stealing into one of those European places. The one thing I'd say about Chelsea, as highlighted in that Spurs game, very vulnerable defensively from set pieces. We saw that even with the 9 men. and Newcastle are very strong in that area. Kieran Trippier is the lead and assist maker as far as the Premier League's concerned so far this season. So I would expect him to be looking forward to flinging a few balls into the box for them to attack. And I say it should be a really entertaining game. It's surprising, really, that it's a Saturday kickoff at 10 a.m. Eastern, isn't it? So, yeah, one that should be a good watch, and will buck the trend of this weekend and see a few goals.
Yeah, stateside viewers will be able to watch it. In the UK, we won't be able to. It's not live on the box. We like overs in that one. We've got a lean, and it's another unders just to complete the theme. It's going to be the final game in November, Nigel, in the Premier League. Wolves against Fulham at Fulham, and just a lean for you on this one.
Just another lean, under 2.5 goals. We know, but Wolves have been a little bit totally opposite to what we've seen over the years. I mean, a bit more expansive. They play a little bit more football, but they play a Fulham side, I think, are toothless in attack, as we've said so many times here. And we know that the Wolves 0-0 at half-time bet is always a decent angle. That's just another one I look under. I mean, I know that Jack there has gone on about the Tottenham match, the Chelsea match there, and I totally respect his opinion there, but I'm actually thinking about having a stupid accumulator every single one unders this week. Liverpool, Man City as well. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I'll be just there.
Well, I was going to give you a free $1 play in that one, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll come on to that in a minute, but I think that one there is it might not. I think with the way that match is set after the international break, that might not live up to the hype that everyone expects. You know, Haaland's out. Well, he's potentially out. Alvarez, obviously, over in Argentina. All the South American players coming back from international break for Liverpool as well. That might not be the great game that we're expecting. The 3.5 goal line there. I'm worried about that one as well. Aston Villa, Tottenham. I mean, that could be anything. That's the only one I'm a little bit worried about. But all the matches this week to be under 2.5 goals. We'll just take out the Chelsea one. We'll just take out the Chelsea one for Jack. But it was 600 to 1 that every single one of them was under 2.5 goals. And we threw 3.5 with Man City and 3.5 with Tottenham. So if we take out the Newcastle match, we are looking at 305 to 1 with Bet Rivers unders on all those matches.
You're tempting me there.
I don't think that's a bad bet. I think we should have a group bet. Why don't we also? Yeah. Why don't we have?
No, we can do that.
Why don't we just have like $10? Yeah, to win it. So every match under 2.5 goals.
Do only 9 from 10.
And yeah, so we do 9. I think that's not a bad little bit of interest for a bit of fun for the weekend.
Yeah, we could be structured nicely. We could be hanging on Monday night or Monday afternoon. It is in the States for that Fulham game before 4. We'll do our money. No,
we'll go there. We'll go there. We'll streak.
Go.
We'll get Jack to streak.
We'll definitely
in the freezing cold.
Very quickly. Nigel, you've alluded to the City Liverpool game. It's interesting because City were minus 157. They're back minus 143 now, and maybe off the back of the team that you were talking about. Just quickly, boys, you know, a money line $3 play on this one. Where would you go, or an over and unders? What would you play? It is the big game.
It's all to do with Haaland, isn't it? If Haaland plays, and that line will go back to minus 157. The uncertainty around Haaland. He obviously got injured in the Norway game. Didn't feature in the last match. Will he play? Well, they've got. It's interesting to see that team news is going to be crucial in that match. But I just think the way this is positioned in the calendar, the fact it's a Saturday morning match after an international break, which is scandalous, really, absolutely ridiculous.
But it was meant to be 5:30. He got changed on police advice.
Yeah, but it should have been a Sunday. It should have been a Sunday.
Well, potentially, yeah.
I mean,
I think that's because of Champions League issues the following week. Is it?
Yeah, I suppose. This week they got. But it doesn't make. It's ludicrous, and I think that will have an impact on the match we're going to see. I think under 3.5 goals is a bet here.
Jack.
Yeah, I think I would go for a little crazy one on maybe a correct score there, on a low correct score. These games have tended to been, from memory, all or nothing. They've either been 4-1 or very low scoring, isn't they, over the last few seasons? So, yeah, I'd probably go for maybe 1-0 to City or something like that.
Liverpool win it. How close to City in the title market in the future? I mean, the plus 650 here. If Liverpool win it, I mean, they'll be serious. I mean, we think they're sort of challenges anyway, Nigel. I think we both back them. Yeah. I mean, it'd be good. It'd be good for the market, wouldn't it, if they won it?
Yeah, as I've said all along with him, I don't think he knows his best team, and I think they're going to come good. I think Arsenal have peaked. I think they're where the value in this market. I've always said I felt the difference between Arsenal and Liverpool. I think Liverpool should be ahead of Arsenal. That's my opinion. I think Arsenal get all the praise and all the publicity and all the hype, but I think Liverpool, player for player, have got big game players who can change the match much a bigger level. Have seen it done. It's Salah. I mean, he's not getting the credit he deserves. But this season, he's unbelievable. But I think Liverpool are more of the title threat, and if they win this match, I expect them to be around about plus 350 to win the Premier League title.
Best bets this weekend are the ones that you give a Nigel. You can go first. What's your best play?
I think it's going to be the under 2.5 goals in Everton, Manchester United. The circumstances of that match, the fact that Everton will be galvanised, that they'll feel like they've got the world on their shoulders. They want to take everybody on. Dyche will set them up really, really defensively. And Manchester United with a huge Champions League game in midweek. I think under 2.5 goals there at minus 103.
Jack, what's your best play?
I'm going to go with both teams to score in Luton against Palace. And that 1-1 draw.
Okay, yeah, well, we'll take 1-1 for both tips to cash. And finally, it is the Betting Weekly Christmas party on Friday. We have got representatives of all of the soccer shows, the tennis shows and the cricket shows rolling up, plus one or two invited special guests as well. Looking forward to it, Nigel.
Yeah, it should be good. It should be a good night. But before we go on to that, just one thing, and this is going live on Wednesday and probably be live on Thursday. Very happy Thanksgiving to all our American viewers as well. Enjoy that with your families and friends, and hopefully cash them tickets. It's a big sporting weekend across in America, so very happy Thanksgiving. With regards to the Christmas party, yes, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be. We've got to have pictures. You can follow us on our Instagram account at Because We Win. Jack will be posting some pictures. Myself will be posting some pictures on there. We'll be editing them before we send them up. But it's going to be quite interesting to see who behaves himself and who's been on the Christmas good list and who's been on the naughty list.
And we're playing darts as well. We're playing darts as well, Jack. Aren't we? Having a bite to it. We're playing a bit of darts as well. You a darts man? You an Aerosmith?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't give too much away, but yeah, we'll see when I get on the hockey on Friday night.
Crucially,
better than I was at golf last time we went out.
Well, yeah, I think I won at golf, didn't I?
No, you didn't.
I think I won.
You didn't.
I think I won that one.
Did we not tie?
I think I won. Crucially, though, it's a big night. We're meeting early. Jack's meeting at 4:00. He's meeting Steve Wiss of the European Show. I won't be rocking up till 7:30. Far too sensible. The crucial thing here, though, Nigel. Who's going to be the first to lead, the first to duck out, the first to drop a shoulder and swerve it?
Well, Wright has already said he's got an early train to catch. There's been a big move for Wright, very early move. But I think, to be fair, listen, we don't call him the Cinderella of the because we win, because his Uber turns us into a carriage if he's not home by 12:00, and that is Sean Calvert. Sean Calvert is absolute certainty at the young first. As soon as the free bar ends, Calvert's exit. He's going to thought. Don't worry about that, and he will. Yes, we know. We follow him. He goes all around the world on those public transport, his buses. He's not going to be getting no Uber and no taxi after 12:00. Sean Calvert is a very, very heavy favourite to go first.
Jack, who's the last man standing? Who's going to be propping up the bar speaking to themselves at 3 a.m.?
Shocking as it seems, I had a look through the drinks menu. Stella is on tap, so don't need to say no more, do I?
Nigel, you're last man standing, I think, aren't you?
I'll tell you, there's more chance of me being the first one gone than the last one. So I'm on the strict instructions. I'm on the strict orders from the missus. So there you go.
I need to get home. There's a massive game on the Saturday. It's Norwich versus QPR.
Yeah, we saw that game last Sunday.
Yeah, we saw the reverse fixture. I really enjoyed it. Anyway, Nigel, Jack, thanks for your company. Good luck with all your picks. That is a wrap for week 13 of Betting Weekly Premier League show. We will be back next week with all the best bets across the EPL, and stay across all of the Betting Weekly content via @BecauseWeWin. From all of us for now, though, it is goodbye.